I'll build on the previous points that I've heard, and I will zoom out and zoom in on Romania and Europe as I go along. In my opinion, we are not in a good place, and as an industry participant in one of the industries that has, over the last 20 years, contributed probably, a very significant part of the capital invested in innovation and infrastructure. I have to say that I'm concerned at the pace at which Europe is losing its competitiveness. And the reason why this is happening, and we've been talking about it within our sector for years, technology evolution is a blessing for those that embrace it, but actually it's a curse for those that don't. And unfortunately, with the introduction of AI and the pace with which I see AI transforming the way we run our businesses, I think that the gap between the competitiveness of economies like the US and China and Europe is going to increase in an accelerated pace. So my first point is that we don't have the luxury of time anymore, and we need to act very quickly. And when I'm saying quickly, I'm really looking forward to updated industrial policies and decisions at Brussels level in the forthcoming year. Because if this doesn't happen, then I think that Europe will probably miss the boat. Already we see the contribution of Europe's GDP towards global GDP falling. We used to be at 25%, if I'm not mistaken, a few years ago. By 2028, the forecast will be that we will be, as a European Union, contributing 15% of the global GDP. So I am optimistic about the potential of technologies such as AI in what they can do on innovation, but I'm raising a word of caution that speed is of the essence. There are three things, in my opinion, that we need to focus on. Number one is regulation. So we have done a great job in Europe in over-regulating sectors to the point where we are stifling investment and innovation. And I'll give you two examples. Number one is my sector, so telecommunication sector in Europe in the 90s and early 2000s used to be the crown jewel, if you like, of communications globally, with valuations, investments, capital investments, and so on and so forth. At the moment, unfortunately, we're trailing the US and China by miles. And if you look at the valuations of European-based businesses, we have paid the price as a sector, and valuations of telecom operators have declined north of 50%, with the exception of one player, of which 80% of the value is driven by the US investment, not in Europe. So what's wrong with our sector? Regulation has intervened. I would say outdated regulation focusing just on market fragmentation and competitiveness on the one hand, and on the other hand, the demands and requests from governments and other market participants on us are all about increasing our level of investment. So on the one hand, we are being asked to put more money behind 5G, behind security, behind high-risk vendors, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, unfortunately, regulation does not allow the sector to consolidate. What's the result? We have more than 180 operators in Europe versus 3 operators in the US and 3 operators in China. That's one example. The second example, which I see and I fear, is the regulation around AI and the stance that Europe is taking versus the US. Where in the US, it's a lot more about embracing, experimenting, and allowing the private sector to innovate on the back of AI. Europe, I think we're approaching AI from the point of view of something bad is going to happen, so we need to constrain it. So we're not in the right direction there, and I'm looking forward to seeing significant changes happen. My second point is around industrial strategy. What do I mean by industrial strategy? I see especially in the US, as well as China, where that, certain bets are being placed. Let's call the bet on electric vehicles that China made years back, and how those, let's say, bets are being supported through and through, from government decisions to, funneling of funds and so on and so forth. Contrast that with Europe, where we have the amazing opportunity of the recovery funds, plus all the European funds, but unfortunately we have a very fragmented nationalistic industrial strategy. So every state is doing their own thing, every ministry is supporting their own thing. So there's no commonality and there's no uniformity around how we spend that money. So the fear is that we're going to spend that money, in too many directions, across too many sectors, and we will not have an industrial story for Europe. My third point is around education. Now, we do have very strong educational institutions, not only in Romania, but in other European markets. But unfortunately, if I compare and contrast the way that educational institutions continue to work in Europe to a large extent, versus the ones that I've seen in the US, for example, they are unfortunately still far away from the private sector. Therefore, when we invest around innovation, unfortunately, the investments are not tightly linked, let's say, to what the companies want. So there is a big opportunity, if you like, to bring companies closer to educational institutions, but also the government close to both educational institutions as well as companies in creating what is a more consistent, let's say, production of brains, of people that are capable of onboarding themselves and working for companies and contributing from day one towards the strategy and the innovation of the private sector. So I think these are the 3 points that I wanted to raise. I will repeat that we need to act quickly. I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of the studies that have been already in place. There is a study on competitiveness, there's a study of digitalization across Europe, so I'm really seeing on the back of those studies some critical decisions, and I urge for action fast.
Thanks.